The House of David Season 3 Episode 1 sneak peek has just revealed something shocking, and if you thought Saul had already lost control, what comes next will change everything. The sneak peek for House of David Season 3 Episode 1 opens with a feeling that something is deeply wrong, and you can sense it immediately. There is no peace left in the kingdom, no balance, no order. What we are stepping into now is not just a continuation of the story, it is the beginning of complete chaos. Saul is no longer the king we once saw struggling with doubt. Now he is driven by something far more dangerous, obsession. And this obsession is no longer focused only on David himself. What makes this moment so intense is that Saul's anger has evolved. It is no longer about chasing one man. It is about destroying everything connected to him. The sneak peek strongly hints that Saul is preparing to strike in a way we have never seen before. A move that is colder, more calculated, and far more ruthless. And the most terrifying part is David sees it coming. This is where the tone of the story shifts completely. David is no longer just reacting to danger. For the first time, he is thinking ahead, predicting Saul's moves before they happen. There is a quiet tension in the way the story builds this moment. You can feel that David understands something the others do not. That staying in one place, even for a moment, could mean the end, not just for him but for the people he loves. And this is where the emotional weight begins to hit. Because the sneak peek suggests that David is forced to make a decision that will change everything. A decision that is not about courage or strength, but about sacrifice. He cannot protect everyone by keeping them close. Instead, he has to let them go. Sending his family away is not just a strategic move. It is a heartbreaking realization that his life has entered a phase where danger follows him everywhere. At the same time, we begin to see how isolated David truly is. Even though he is surrounded by loyal men, there is a growing sense that the burden he carries is his alone. This is not the story of a hero rising easily to power. This is the story of someone being pushed, step by step, into a destiny that demands everything from him. Every choice feels heavier. Every moment feels like it could lead to something irreversible. And then comes the shift toward betrayal. The title itself, the war, the betrayal, the crown, is not just dramatic, it is a warning. Because what the sneak peek subtly reveals is that not all threats will come from enemies. Some will come from places David once trusted. There are small hints, quiet moments, and underlying tensions that suggest alliances may begin to crack. And when trust starts to break in a world already filled with fear, the consequences can be devastating. What makes this even more intense is how the story doesn't rush these moments. Instead, it builds them slowly, creating a constant feeling of unease. You are not just watching events unfold, you are waiting for something to go wrong. And when that feeling stays with you throughout the sneak peek, it becomes clear that Season 3 is going to be darker than anything we have seen before. Another important detail the sneak peek emphasizes is the idea of transformation. David is changing, not in a sudden, obvious way, but in a quiet and steady manner. The way he thinks, the way he reacts, even the way he carries himself, it all points toward someone who is no longer just running. He is becoming something more, something stronger, but also something heavier. Because every step toward the crown seems to come with a loss. And that is what makes this beginning so powerful. It is not just about what is happening around David. It is about what is happening inside him. The fear, the responsibility, the weight of knowing that his future is leading him towards something he cannot escape. And yet, he keeps moving forward. By the time this opening part of the story settles in, one thing becomes very clear. This is not going to be an easy journey. The war is not just coming. It has already begun. The betrayal is not just a possibility, it is already taking shape. And the crown is no longer a symbol of hope. It is a symbol of everything David is about to lose before he can finally claim it. As the sneak peek continues, the tension rises in a way that feels almost suffocating, because now the story begins to focus on the chase. And this is not just any chase, it is a relentless pursuit that shows us exactly how far Saul is willing to go. What makes this even more intense is the fact that Saul is no longer acting like a king who wants to protect his throne. He is acting like a man who has already lost everything and has nothing left to lose. You can feel this shift in every moment. Saul is not thinking clearly anymore. His decisions are driven by anger, by fear, and most importantly by the belief that David's existence alone is a threat that must be erased. And this is where the danger becomes unpredictable. Because when someone stops caring about consequences, there is no limit to what they can do. At the same time, David's journey takes a much darker turn. The sneak peek strongly suggests that his escape is not going to be simple or straightforward. Every step he takes is filled with uncertainty. Every place he goes could become a trap. And yet, despite all of this, David does not stop moving forward. What makes this so powerful is that he is not just running away, he is learning. We begin to see David relying more on instinct, on faith, and on the people who have chosen to stand beside him. But even here, there is a quiet tension, because loyalty, in times like these, is always fragile. The sneak peek hints that even among David's followers there are moments of doubt. Not everyone fully understands the path he is choosing, and not everyone is ready for the consequences that come with it. This creates a very important layer in the story, because the war is not just happening between David and Saul, it is also happening within the group itself. Fear begins to spread, questions begin to rise, and when people start to question their leader in the middle of danger, it creates cracks that can easily turn into betrayal. And then comes one of the most important aspects of this section, the idea of hiding versus confronting. The sneak peek shows us that David is constantly being pushed into situations where he has to decide whether to stand and fight or to disappear and survive. And this is not an easy choice, because every time he chooses to avoid conflict, it feels like he is stepping further away from the destiny that awaits him. But at the same time, choosing to fight could mean losing everything before that destiny is even reached. This internal struggle is what makes David's journey so compelling. He is not being guided by pride or ambition. He is being guided by something deeper, something that tells him that the timing is not yet right. And trusting that feeling, especially when everything around him is falling apart, requires a level of strength that goes beyond physical power. Meanwhile, Saul's side of the story becomes even more disturbing. The sneak peek hints that his actions are starting to affect not just David but the entire kingdom. His decisions are creating fear among his own people, and when a king begins to lose the trust of those he rules, it marks the beginning of the end. But what makes this even more dangerous is that Saul does not seem to realize it, or worse, he simply does not care. There is also a growing sense that Saul is becoming more isolated. The people around him may still follow his commands, but there is a difference between obedience and loyalty, and that difference is slowly becoming visible. This is important because it sets the stage for what could become a major turning point later in the story. At the center of all this chaos, the theme of betrayal becomes stronger. The sneak peek does not show it directly, but it builds toward it. There are subtle signs, small moments that suggest something is not right, and this is what creates suspense. Because you know something is coming, you just don't know when or from where. By the end of this section, the situation feels more dangerous than ever. David is being hunted from all sides, forced to move constantly, never able to truly rest. Saul is becoming more aggressive, more unstable, and more determined, and the space between them is shrinking with every passing moment. And this is where the story becomes truly gripping, because it is no longer about who is stronger. It is about who will break first. As the sneak peek moves forward, the story begins to slow down, but not in a way that reduces the tension. Instead, it becomes more intense, more personal, and far more meaningful, because now we are taken into the moments where everything could change with a single decision. This is where the war pauses for just a moment and something deeper takes its place. The focus now shifts toward one of the most powerful turning points hinted at in the sneak peek, the moment when David and Saul come closer than ever before. Not on a battlefield, not surrounded by armies, but in silence. And that silence carries more weight than any fight ever could. You can feel that this moment is different. The chase, the fear, the anger, all of it leads here. And for the first time, David is not running. He is not hiding in panic. He is watching, thinking, and most importantly, deciding. Because what stands before him is not just an enemy, it is a choice that could define who he truly is. The sneak peek strongly builds toward this moment in a way that makes you question everything. What would happen if David chose to end it right there? If he took the opportunity that so many would consider impossible to ignore? This is the kind of moment where stories usually turn toward revenge, toward justice, toward action. But here, it feels different. And that is where David's character begins to stand apart in a way that is impossible to ignore. Because instead of reacting with anger, instead of taking advantage of the situation, he holds back. And this is not weakness. This is control. This is belief. This is something much greater than the need to win. The emotional weight of this moment is incredibly strong. Because you can sense that everyone around David might expect a different choice. They might not understand why he would let such an opportunity pass. And this creates tension not just between David and Saul, but between David and his own men. This is where the idea of leadership becomes more complex. Being a leader is not just about making the strong move, it is about making the right move, even when no one else agrees with it. And the sneak peek suggests that this decision will not come without consequences. Doubt will grow, questions will rise, and the gap between David and some of his followers may begin to widen. At the same time, Saul's reaction to this moment becomes just as important, because when someone is shown mercy in a situation where they expect destruction, it can break something inside them. It can create confusion, guilt, or even more anger. And the sneak peek hints that Saul's response will not be simple. For a brief moment, it may seem like everything could change. Like this act of mercy might bring an end to the conflict. But deep down, there is a feeling that this is only temporary. That the damage done is too deep and the path they are on cannot be reversed so easily. And this is what makes this part of the story so powerful. It is not about action, it is about meaning. It is about showing that David's journey is not just about becoming king, but about becoming the kind of person who deserves that crown. Every decision he makes is shaping that future, even if it makes his present more difficult. The sneak peek also uses this moment to highlight something very important. David is changing, but he is not losing himself. Despite everything he has been through, despite the fear, the loss, and the pressure, he is still holding on to something that sets him apart. And that is what makes his story so compelling. But just as this moment begins to settle, the tension starts to rise again. Because the story reminds us that one act of mercy does not end a war. It does not erase hatred. And it does not guarantee peace. In fact, it may do the opposite. Because by choosing not to end Saul's life, David is allowing the conflict to continue. He is choosing a longer, harder path. A path filled with more danger, more uncertainty, and possibly even greater loss. And that is where the weight of the crown truly begins to show. Not as something shining and glorious, but as something heavy, something earned through pain, through sacrifice, and through choices that not everyone will understand. By the end of this section, one thing becomes clear. This story is not building toward a simple victory. It is building towards something far more complex. A journey where every step forward comes with a cost, and where the greatest battles are not always fought with swords,